Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're jumping right into Lesson 6 of the Kingdom Policy, and we're looking at how the unseen world actually works. And spoiler alert, it doesn't run on magic or, just good intentions. It actually operates like this massive, highly structured machine that's governed by strict spiritual laws. Understanding how these laws function is absolutely crucial. It's the key to navigating both the physical and the spiritual realms. Okay, let's dive into this with a simple physical analogy. What happens if you jump off a building? Well, we all know the answer, right? You fall, and you hit the ground, hard. Gravity doesn't pause to ask if you're a good person, a bad person, a wealthy CEO, or a struggling student. It is completely blind to who you are. If you jump, you fall, period. And that brings us to the absolute core focus of our explainer today. Spiritual laws are 100% neutral forces. Just like gravity or thermodynamics, they govern both the physical and spiritual realms equally, without respect of persons. They're universal, unfeeling, and they apply to everyone. You can't just opt out, and ignoring them doesn't mean they stop affecting you. They're literally the structural code of reality itself. Which takes us right into Section 1, the Rule of Neutrality. Let's break this definition down simply, right down to like a 6th grade level. Neutrality basically means these spiritual forces swing equally in both directions. It's like a door that opens both ways. They work the exact same way whether you use them to build something incredible or to cause total destruction. Think about it like electricity. Electricity can power a hospital's life support system, or it can completely burn a house down. The spiritual law is just raw, neutral mechanics. It doesn't have a moral compass, it just follows its programming based on the input it gets. And we see this legal precedent established right in the source material. Acts 10:34 explicitly states that God is no respecter of persons. In a spiritual, legal context, this means the system treats every single individual exactly the same. There are no VIP passes here. You don't get immunity based on your status or your title. The law applies to you exactly as it applies to everyone else on the planet. And this brilliantly illustrates our next point in Section 2, the courts of heaven. Let's look at how these neutral rules are actually managed and enforced. So let's map out the active players in this legal system so we know exactly who is who. At the head of the court, we have the judge, which is God. Opposing you is the chief prosecutor, often referred to as Satan or the accuser. And representing you is the defense attorney, Jesus Christ. Now, this isn't just some poetic metaphor. According to the source material, this is a functioning, mechanical, legal framework where cases are literally tried based on the physical and spiritual evidence of your life. So, how does this prosecutor actually build a case against you? Well, his entire job is to use your everyday words, your actions, and your unconfessed faults as legal data points. He gathers this evidence, establishes a cause, and brings formal charges to literally block your petitions, your prayers. He's essentially exploiting those perfectly neutral spiritual laws we just talked about to build a watertight legal case against you. All right, moving right along to Section 3, 3 essential spiritual laws. Now, the Kingdom Policy actually outlines a whole bunch of key laws: agreement, atmospheres, clean hands, forgiveness, free will. These cover everything, the whole shebang. But to really see how this neutrality works in action today, we're going to zoom in on just those first 3. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the law of agreement works. When you align with a person, an idea, or an action, you're creating a shared direction and a shared authority. You're essentially signing a binding, legal, spiritual contract. This is perfectly captured in Amos 3:3. Can two walk together except they be agreed? This law dictates that whatever you willfully say yes to grants legal access to your life. Because the law is completely neutral, that agreement can either unlock immense blessing or it gives the chief prosecutor the exact legal right he needs to come in and derail things. It's entirely based on your yes. Moving to our second rule, the law of atmospheres. Think of the atmosphere as a blank slate, or literally like a physical room that acts as a container. This container holds the energy, the intent, and the spiritual weight of whatever happens inside it. To really put that into perspective, let's ground this in hard science for a second. Our physical atmosphere is a protective blanket of gases, surprisingly mostly nitrogen, a bit of oxygen, all held in place by gravity. But those invisible gases dictate our weather and literally keep us alive. We completely understand that shifting the physical atmosphere changes our neuromechanical reality here on Earth. Well, the spiritual atmosphere works exactly the same way. But instead of gases and barometric pressure dictating the weather, it's made up of your thoughts, your spoken words, and worship. Your words and emotions literally set the spiritual temperature of the room you walk into. If you speak words of anger or fear, you are charging that environment with a negative legal framework. If you speak peace, you set a positive one. It's just pure cause and effect. So the crucial point is, how do you actually win in this system? That brings us to the third rule, the law of clean hands. This is an equitable defense in the courtroom. It mandates that anyone seeking relief from the court, meaning anyone asking for a prayer to be answered, must have acted fairly and without fraud. This single law directly decides if your legal petitions are granted or denied. The court simply won't help anyone with unclean hands, but cleaning them is a very straightforward mechanical process. First, confess all hidden faults so the prosecutor loses his evidence. Second, forgive those who wronged you. And third, yield your right to personal revenge over to the judge. Do this, and your defense attorney has the full legal right to completely throw out the indictments against you. Let's move to and see how this builds into our final segment, Section 4, your spiritual jurisdiction. This is where you take control. So how do we mindfully navigate this whole system without getting tripped up? It's simple, really. Fiercely guard your daily agreements. Watch what you say yes to. Intentionally speak words that build a positive atmosphere, and maintain clean hands through quick forgiveness, which literally cuts off the prosecutor's supply of evidence. Remember, gravity applies to everyone, and so do these spiritual laws. I want to leave you with a profound question to reflect on as we wrap up this explainer. If the court of heaven reviewed your case files today, right in this moment, what would the evidence say about your alignment? Are you utilizing these neutral forces to build a life of freedom? Or are you unwittingly handing over evidence to the prosecution? Think deeply about that. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.